Back to school stress is real. So many of you are going through it right now, whether you're a student or a parent. I remember collapsing into bed some nights thinking, I don't think I sat down once today.
Even mild dehydration can impair memory and attention.
Energy isn't just about surviving the day. To me, it's about having enough left in the tank for your family and yourself at the end of the day. Hey, everyone, and welcome back to the Eversio Experience. I am Brandi Garden. I'm the co-founder here at Eversio Wellness. And before I got into mushrooms, some of you might not know, I was an elementary school teacher for over 20 years. So we're in back to school season right now. And when I think about back to school, I don't just think about those shiny new pencils that kids love. I often think of the stress and those germs and those late nights and long days, not just for teachers, but also for parents and for students.
Totally. And I'm Dr. Desiree Caruso. I'm a naturopathic doctor, and I'm also your co-host of the Eversio Experience podcast. And a really fun fact, if you didn't know, is that I was Brandi's grade 4 student 20 years ago, 20 plus years ago. And here we are. So how cool is this that I get to record a podcast on back to school with my favorite teacher ever?
Awesome. And we're rocking our hoodies today that we probably, back in the day, we would have worn these to school just to celebrate all those kids that are back and choosing those outfits first thing in the morning. But today, we're going to really talk to you about how to navigate back to school season with more focus and more calm and more energy and more resilience, things that I wish I would have had as a teacher back in the day. So we're going to explore 5 pillars of health that really matter most right now. And of course, how functional mushrooms, fruiting body extracts can really support them.
So let's do a shape of the day like Brandi would normally do.
Yes.
So we'll do the lineup for today's episode. So we're going to talk about focus and learning, stress resilience, immune support, energy and stamina, and then sleep and recovery.
Yes, focus, memory, and learning. The 3 things, not a lot has changed from my career as a teacher to now as a mushroom nerd, as an entrepreneur, because I still am fascinated every day about the brain. I love neuroscience. I love learning about how we learn. And I think that was maybe my favorite part of being a teacher, was being able to look at kids and really see their brains working in those aha moments. And one thing I learned after 20 years in the classroom was that kids do not come into the classroom as blank slates. They so often come in with their morning routine, just like literally written all over their faces. Students who had had a fiber and protein rich breakfast and who got enough sleep the night before, they were the ones that could sit down and focus and retain information. That was you, Dr. Des. Where the ones who skipped breakfast, or they stayed up really late gaming the night before, or, some crisis in their family was going on, those were the ones who their brains, they were foggy before 9 a.m. even hit. And we know that when kids sleep well, their brains reorganize and they store what they learned that day. And then that makes it easier for them to recall later. So a fun fact for you too, kids who spend time playing outside in nature can actually improve their focus and their memory and their learning, because research shows that just 20 minutes in a green space, like a park or a garden or a forest on a mushroom walk, can boost attention span and working memory in kids, because nature exposes it. Just the exposure helps to calm the brain. And we see that over and over again. It reduces mental fatigue. It allows the prefrontal cortex, the part that's responsible for focus and decision making, to recharge, almost giving it like a mini reset. So at school, even something as simple as walking under the trees on the way to school in the morning, right? We have some little kids in our neighborhood that know that we're mushroom nerds. They love to do a little mushroom walk on the way to school and report what they've seen. Or having recess outdoors. As a teacher, I was big on that. Everybody went outside, rain or shine, because I know it can just make a big difference in how well kids concentrate once they're back in the classroom, and it helps them to retain that new information. And the same is true for teachers. Right? We also need to stay sharp all day long, lesson after lesson. So the big idea here is that focus isn't just about willpower. It's about how you fuel and care for your brain.
Yeah, such a great point. I think from a naturopathic perspective, I think the easiest thing is to start with food, right?
Yep.
Making sure that you're first of all, eating in the morning and then
Mhm.
having, a protein-rich breakfast. And I know there's a lot of protein is like a buzzword right now in the wellness space, but making sure that we're nourishing ourselves with whole foods because that's going to stabilize your blood sugar and help to keep your brain fueled. So, adding omega-3s, so whether
Yes.
it's walnuts or flax, things like that for your breakfast, no matter what you're having, it can help to support your neuronal function. And another thing too is that hydration is often overlooked. So,
Mm.
like, even mild dehydration can impair memory and attention. And when we wake up in the morning, we've been sleeping for many, many hours. So we wake up in, slightly dehydrated. That's important to make sure that we are hydrating right in the morning when we are waking up. When we look at, the mushroom side, lion's mane is for sure the standout mushroom. So there was this randomized double-blind trial with adults with mild cognitive impairment, and they took lion's mane fruiting body extracts for 16 weeks, and they improved on cognitive testing. When supplementation stopped, these benefits declined. So lion's mane contains compounds that stimulate nerve growth factor, and they help to support neuroplasticity and sharper focus. And I mean, we see that ourselves too. Taking lion's mane really helps you to be productive, to stay in the zone, to really have quick thinking and not have brain fog.
Absolutely. And I know as a student in my classroom, you probably remember that I was really always encouraging students to have a water bottle on their desk with them at
Yes.
all times. And if
Mhm.
it was before a test, everybody took a drink of water and just, lighting up the connectivity in the brain. It's a real thing. And
Mhm.
again, not just for students, but for adults in the classroom as well to just remember that the importance of water. It seems so simple, but when we're talking about the brain, it's a massive factor that can be the simplest, easiest change and addition. So if you are a parent sending kids to school, make sure those water bottles are filled up as they go. If it's a teacher that doesn't allow water on the desk, have a chat with them about it. Say, I know nerds that have done the research and it's a big deal. Kids should be sipping through the day and making sure that they are never getting to a point where they actually feel thirsty because we know by that point they're already dehydrated. All right, let's talk about stress, resilience, and calm because I think this was the biggest one in my own personal experience because back to school stress is real. So many of you are going through it right now, whether you're a student or a parent or just, have a loved one who is a teacher or a student and going through this right now. It's not just for kids, but I have seen children walk into classrooms with stomach aches and tears because of separation anxiety while parents are stressed because they're juggling a new schedule. Teachers are trying to learn 30 new names and manage 30 different personalities in week one. So it's everywhere. The stress is not just for one person in this situation. And what I wish more people knew was that stress shows up in behavior. So many of those kids that get labeled as, that fidgety, distracted student, sometimes it's just anxiety, which we can, when we recognize that that's what it is, it's so easy for us to help with the management of it. That short tempered parent at drop off, if you're a teacher, you know what I mean? They're probably just overwhelmed. Right? It's just a lot. It's a lot of change at once. And teachers who might seem, to be the crabby teacher in the staff room, well, research has shown that teachers in Canada specifically, I just read this research last night. So, new research is showing that teachers in Canada are facing unprecedented levels of stress and burnout. And the surveys showed that, get this, over 75% of Canadian educators report emotional exhaustion, with many of them struggling to cope because workloads just climb every year. Right? This is the experience of so many of my teacher friends out there. You know who you are. And they say that nearly a third of new teachers leave within 5 years of starting this profession. Right? Crazy. So the other stat is over 40% of those in provinces like British Columbia, where we are, say that they are more likely to quit early due to their own declining mental health. And I mean, that was me, right? I would have stayed teaching, I think, a lot longer if I thought I could be more stress resilient and I just didn't have the skills then that I do now. So the truth is that we burn out quickly when we don't have the tools to reset during the day. Resilience isn't just about avoiding the stress. The stress is going to be there. It's about learning how to manage it and then recover from it. Things that I really wish I'd have known how to do back in the day.
This is a big topic for school because, like you said, it's not just affecting one person in the situation. It's the kids, the parents, the teachers, the whole ecosystem. From a clinical perspective, I really encourage families to build a pause into the day. So a short breathing exercise, it could be a family walk after dinner, or even just stepping outside for fresh air. And I think that can be really helpful too, for teachers, right? To have a moment of pause, right? I know just because it's recess or lunch doesn't mean that you're off the clock, but having that moment within your classroom just to take an inventory of how you're doing. I think it's so great too with kids and families, if possible, to walk to and from school, because that's, you're exercising, you're moving, you're getting some stress out of your body in that sense, and connection and play. But, for stress and whatnot, we look to things like adaptogens, right? Adaptogens physiologically help our bodies deal with stress. Everybody's heard about herbs like ashwagandha or rhodiola that can be helpful, but mushrooms really offer a unique support, and they're really true modulators, and they can be deep immune modulators and really supporting stress. And, that means that they're helping our bodies, whether it's over or under functioning with stress, because no response to stress is cookie cutter, right?
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
everybody has a unique response to stress.
I wish
Whether
I had had them then. Like, I look
mm,
back and think, would my experience as a teacher have been different if I had had mushrooms? So
yeah.
tell me, which ones would you have prescribed to me if I had been your patient back then?
Totally. I mean, there's two that really come to mind for stress, and the first one really is reishi. It's
Mhm.
the classic. It's triterpenes, so remember that reishi's triterpenes will only be present if it's a dual extract,
Mhm.
but reishi's triterpenes act on the GABA pathways, which help to promote calm and ease that wired but tired loop that we can often go
Mhm.
into, and GABA is really that calming neurotransmitter. So when we look at animal studies, reishi's been shown to shorten sleep latency, so meaning the time it takes to fall asleep, and then really lengthen that sleep time. So those of us who feel that wired but tired loop where our brain just can't shut off, we maybe have difficulty falling asleep, or we wake up in the middle of the night and our brain just won't shut off. So
Mm.
making sure that we're staying asleep for longer. And clinically too, it's been shown to support relaxation and mood balance, right? You
Yeah,
call it herbal yoga.
there needs to be a bowl of it in the middle of every staff room table out there in every
Yeah.
school. I mean, I wish we could just donate that, and it would make such a difference for everyone in the building.
The other one too is lion's mane, and
Mm.
it shows promise, but from a different perspective, because human studies have found that taking lion's mane is shown to help reduce anxiety and depression
Mhm.
scores after even just 4 weeks of using a lion's mane fruiting body extract. And so, with depression and anxiety, that's intertwined as well with stress too. And so together, combining both lion's mane and reishi, that could potentially support emotional steadiness during stressful transitions.
Yeah, I love that, and I think it's so important to really hear what you said, that the studies show that after 4 weeks, this isn't
Mm,
something you're gonna pop it and then we've got the quick fix today when we're using things that are essentially food, right, provided by
right.
Mother Nature. We really need for people to give them a chance. So if it's back to school stress that somebody's managing now, it might be October before you're really starting to feel like, "Okay, I'm through it, and now my body has this new tool," and then to be consistent because that research also shows that when we stop using it, then we can start to lose some of those great effects. So being consistent is so important and giving it a chance to get in there.
Mhm.
Okay, topic 3, immune support you talked about. I mean, could there be what's the biggest thing? I don't know. Brains was massive to me. Stress management, I had no tools. I wish I knew then what I know now, but immune support you can't ignore because September, I mean, teachers joke that September is cold and flu season part 1, and really within weeks of school starting, and I know this year is no different. I know so many people are sick. I'm so grateful I'm not one of them. No one in my family actually, and I always look to see that, is it the mushrooms? I think it's the mushrooms, but there's no doubt within that first week or 2 weeks of school, somebody's got the sniffles, and then it spreads like wildfire, right? And I remember I used to keep a box of tissues on every single table in my classroom and then have multiple garbage cans so that kids were not wiping like the green sleeves and then touching everything around, but that we were doing a good job of kind of managing those symptoms. And then for sure by October, we'd be down to half the class on some days, right? I'd have 15 kids instead of 30 because everybody had something, and so did their siblings, and so did their parents, right? Parents, they know this. If your kid gets sick, then odds are your whole household is going down. And from the teacher side, what makes it the biggest difference, I think, is prevention. So as a teacher, I had to, and remember for most of my teaching years, I was taking an immunosuppressant drug
Right.
because I really relied on pharmaceuticals to manage the symptoms of my autoimmune condition. So I essentially was walking in with no immune system. So for me, hand washing was so important. Classrooms should have a sink with running water, and that sounds obvious, but my very early years of teaching, my first years, I did not have a sink in my classroom. Some portable classrooms do not come with proper hand washing. So it's important that you know that your child is in a classroom that has it. And if you're a young teacher, that's not too much for you to make sure that you have the ability to wash your hands frequently when needed. Nourishing snacks, so making sure that when I packed myself up in the morning, it wasn't just lunch. That I had these snacks, high fiber, high protein things that I could grab on the recess break, the lunch break, right at the end of the day when the bell rang. And the biggest thing for immune system health for me was getting enough sleep. Even with those habits, the exposure is constant. So you can do those things, wash your hands and eat well and get sleep, but you're still constantly exposed. And that's why immune resilience is it's so important to be thinking, what else can I do? Am I really being cognizant all of the time? So I'm going to give you these teacher tips, something that I learned as a teacher when I started to recognize I can't be sick all the time. So what can I do above those things? And a big one for me was to improve air circulation. The first classroom I taught in, the windows literally didn't open. I was on a highway and, the windows, they didn't open. I could look out of them, but I could not get fresh air into my classroom. And that was the year I got sick the most.
Mm.
So as soon as I moved into a classroom where I could open the windows, it instantly made a difference. And I did. I don't know if you remember, I always had the windows open.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't have that ability, using a HEPA air purifier, you can bring that into your classroom. You can ask for that to be provided to you. Really encouraging outdoor learning time when the weather allows. I loved an outdoor reading session or math session, sitting out
Mm-hmm.
on the field, on the grass, on a fence, wherever we could get to. Research shows that better ventilation can cut airborne illness transmission by up to 50%.
Wild.
50%. And I remember learning that and thinking, this is such an easy addition to my immune health. So I also think it's important to normalize self-care because there's so
Mm-hmm.
many kids that would just come to school sick. And I think if we can reassure students that staying home when you're sick helps to protect your classmates. So it's actually a gift of love to yourself and to your teacher and your classmates. I think that's a message we don't send enough, right? Being sick is not
Mm-hmm.
being a bad kid. It's self-care, and we need to normalize that. And then providing remote work or catch-up packets as teachers so that families don't feel pressured to send their kids in when they're sick is also important. And I was always willing to do that. I want you to stay home if you're sick as an act of love to everybody in your life. Is one of the nicest things we can do.
Wow, those are great tips. And I think probably there are a lot of parents who maybe don't even think about that. Maybe at the beginning of the school year asking about that and,
Yeah.
and saying, is there some sort of way that my kid doesn't fall behind?
Yes.
So all of these things are great that they're really simple tips, but,
Yeah.
you know, little wisdom from your
It's
your
the little
teaching
things.
days.
It's
It's
the
all the
little
little
things.
things. Yeah. I mean, so for me with parents, I always same thing, making sure that there's protein and fiber at meals and making sure that there's well-balanced meals. But even checking vitamin D levels, especially in the winter or naturally where we are in Canada, our vitamin D levels can decrease. So sometimes supplementing with vitamin D and K2 can be helpful,
Mhm.
as well as zinc. Right? Both
Mm.
are critical for immune balance. And if you are somebody who takes zinc, just keep in mind that zinc taken on an empty stomach can actually make you feel quite nauseous. So I've had a
Mhm.
couple patients who have not known that or who have done it prior
Yeah.
to our discussions, and that's not very fun. But so just make sure that there. But for teachers, I mean, same thing. Consistent sleep is going to be your best defense. When you're not sleeping well and you don't get adequate amounts of sleep, you're not healing and recovering.
Mhm.
So for mushrooms, mushrooms, the most evidence here for functional mushrooms, I mean, we're going to talk about shiitake. That's in our 4-mushroom blend. And so in a 4-week study, adults who were eating dried shiitake daily, they actually increased their immune markers like secretory IgA and lowered CRP, which is our inflammation marker. So
Mhm.
there's that culinary piece, but then also having it in a high potency extract, you're getting even more benefits there. Maitake, which is also in our 4-mushroom blend and 5-mushroom blend, and maitake capsules that we have. So in a placebo-controlled trial, older adults who took maitake tablets had stronger flu vaccine responses and
Mm,
fewer cold symptoms. So if you are somebody who decides to opt for that route, it can be a concomitant therapy, but also just supporting our immune system, maitake, really providing that strength there. And then turkey tail, it's the OG defense
yeah.
support. Its beta glucans act like immune training signals, so priming the system for a faster and more effective response. So it's important to keep in mind these mushrooms aren't overstimulating immunity. What they're really doing is helping it to stay ready, which is exactly what kids need, parents need, and teachers need.
Yeah, and we're gonna get that question, Dr. Des. Can I give it to my kids? We're gonna get it every single
Mm.
time. We love you for wanting to give it to your kids, and we always have to give the same answer, and it's in the FAQs on our website. Can I give mushrooms to kids? Well, Health Canada says that our products, the licenses that we receive, our NPN licenses, only allow us on the bottles, on the jars, to say that the dosing we are recommending is for people that are 18 years and older. So these are for adults. But there is research, not in Canada, but there is research in many other countries where these mushrooms have been given to children in a supplement form very safely and very effectively, but we can't ever recommend them that way. But they're food. So Dr. Des just talked about eating shiitake. I mean, I just bought organic certified shiitake mushrooms at Costco
Mm.
last week, and they were divine. And I
Yeah.
think that pack I bought lasted me over the course of 4 days. I ate shiitake every day. I had it in my breakfast, my lunch, and my dinner. They were delicious, and I knew I was building up this immune system strength. So if you could give it to your kids as food, why wouldn't we be able to give it as a supplement? I don't know. But we do know that both reishi and maitake come with notices from Health Canada that they are safe to use during pregnancy and breastfeeding. So if you can deliver reishi and maitake to your child through breast milk, I don't know why it would be unsafe to give it to a child otherwise. That's all I'm going to say about that. Otherwise, as a parent, it's your choice, right? It's your choice to make after educating yourself.
Mhm.
Okay, so after immune system strength, I think we need to talk about energy and stamina
Mhm.
because I'll just say it, teaching is a full body sport. For me, I mean, you're standing, moving, bending down to tie shoes or help with a math problem, running outside for recess duty, right? Teachers, like you said, recess is not a break for teachers. You're either running to the photocopier, dealing with an issue, dealing with a parent, dealing with a colleague, or you're on supervision outside supervising students while they play. So you're really never stopping during that school day. And then after school, staying late to prep for the next day. I know Craig talked about in a podcast previously that he used to pull me out of the classroom at 11 p.m. because I'm a recovering perfectionist now. But back in the day, I did stay late often at the end of the day because I wanted my lessons to be the best. And I wanted to mark things quickly so that students could learn from the assessments. And I was crazy like that. Essentially, by 2 p.m., every single teacher hits a wall, right? Before that bell even rings. And parents, I know you're juggling carpool and after school activities and the homework marathons on top of your own work day. So I remember collapsing into bed some nights thinking, I don't think I sat down once today. I don't think I remembered to go to the bathroom today, right? It's not ideal. So energy isn't just about surviving the day. To me, it's about having enough left in the tank for your family and yourself at the end of the day. So, Dr. Des, again, what would you have said to me? I did a terrible job with managing my energy and stamina naturally, and I'm not even a coffee drinker. So, I was just exhausted so much of the time. What would you have said to me?
From a naturopathic medical perspective, I mean, a big key here is really stabilizing blood sugar. So, if you're
Mm,
having meals that have all of our macronutrients, then your body is going to be able to break that down appropriately and you're going to have that fuel throughout the day as opposed to having simple carbohydrate meals or snacks with high amounts of
yes.
processed sugar, right? Your blood sugar is going to drop and that's where you're going to feel that slump. But
Yeah, all those
also
granola bars I ate.
all
Oh.
the granola bars. Yeah, totally. And you wanna make sure that you are avoiding relying solely on coffee because same thing, it can spike and crash energy. So,
Yeah.
I mean, from other supplements, B vitamins and magnesium can support steady energy metabolism. Keep in mind that with too much magnesium, magnesium is a vasodilator, so it can actually make you feel a little sleepy. That's typically why people will take it in the evening, but it really depends on the dose. But so for mushrooms, cordyceps militaris is really the classic vitality support, let's say.
Mhm.
Clinical studies in healthy adults have shown that there was improved VO2 max and exercise tolerance with cordyceps supplementation, and its active component cordycepin also
Mm.
helps to support ATP, which is cellular energy production. So it really helps to provide that steady, sustained stamina without the jitters. So it's a great fit for teachers and parents who really need that long-lasting energy. And I think the biggest way that individuals describe how they feel with cordyceps is it's direct, like, oh, I have so much energy, but oftentimes it's, oh, I felt like my energy was stable for
Yes.
longer, as opposed to like a sharp drop off at 1 o'clock or right after lunch or 2 o'clock. And they often note that, hey, I actually didn't have as much coffee today. So that's
Yeah.
typically the biggest feedback.
Yeah, I mean, can you imagine if we were getting teachers to, like, have your morning coffee? So many people
Yeah.
have that ritual and they love it, and there's nothing wrong with it, but maybe at lunchtime, instead of having the second coffee, having a
Mm.
couple of cordyceps capsules with your lunch
Oh, yeah.
so that you're not hitting that crash.
Hmm.
Again, I think we could change the world here with that.
Yeah.
I do, I really do. Okay, number 5, last one we're gonna talk about, sleep. We can't not talk about sleep and recovery. This one, again, so close to my heart because of what I've seen happen when kids and adults don't get enough sleep. I wear the Aura Ring. I know you wear the Aura Ring. There is no doubt sleep is the biggest factor here. And when we're talking about back to school, and I think because we've come off of summer holidays, we're out of routine. And now
Hmm.
we're asking our bodies to get back in. And it takes time for us to adjust back. So hopefully, long before you're listening to this episode, you did something to help your body start adjusting before the back to school day hit and so that it could be a slow progression in. But I just remember those kids who came in tired in the morning. They were the ones with shorter attention spans, more behavior issues, and they needed constant redirection, redirection, redirection. And I'll be honest, teachers are guilty too. Like I said, I used to stay up way too late working and then be up again at 5 a.m. to start all over again. And without rest, everything unravels. My mood, my focus, my immune resilience, my patience. Sleep is truly the secret ingredient to thriving in the school year. And the hardest part, it's usually the first thing that people sacrifice, right? It's
Hmm.
the first thing that they sacrifice. It's so hard for us to see that happen. And the research shows that, and I remember explaining this to parents, pediatricians emphasize that sufficient sleep is 9 to 12 hours for school-aged kids. 9 to 12 hours. Trust me, nobody's getting that. Nobody's getting it. Start tracking and see. If your kid is needing to be up at 7 in the morning to get ready for school, it's not unheard of for them to go to bed at 7 o'clock at night and get those 12 hours. You will have a different kid if you could encourage it. And, anything you could get above 9 hours for those school-aged kids is how you're going to get an optimal kid waking up in the morning. And for teenagers, it's 8 to 10 hours. And this is crucial for concentration, for emotional regulation, and for their memory. So you're probably not getting enough sleep, and your kids likely aren't getting enough sleep, especially if they're going to bed with a device in their bedroom or in their hand. How long is it taking them to fall asleep after they've been looking at that? Those teenagers, are they getting 10 hours? Because again, you will have a different teenager on your hands if they are. I have seen it firsthand. They need their sleep.
They really do. And sleep hygiene is foundational, and some things like you mentioned, getting an adequate enough amount of hours per night, and
Mhm.
and it differs per kid. Every kid is different, and really fine-tuning their bedtime, but other things like dimming the lights in the evening,
Mhm.
making sure there's no screens in the bedroom like you mentioned, consistent bedtime and wake times
Mm.
even on the weekends, right? So that is important because when we're changing up our sleep schedule on the weekends, that really impacts kids.
Yeah.
And not having sugar late at night, right? They're
Yeah.
bouncing off the walls and then their blood sugar drops and just, all of those things. But from a mushroom perspective, we really look at reishi being the number one because of the research on sleep. Like I mentioned earlier, in studies showing that the reishi triterpenes help to reduce sleep latency and extend sleep time. And
Mhm.
clinically, again, it's often used to support relaxation and deeper sleep. There was this one study for reishi where it showed that it had these anxiolytic effects, and it actually, improved sleep significantly in comparison to even medications. And we've heard
Yeah.
that from people too in our community who have been on sleeping pills for decades or even years. I even had my own a family member who, same thing, really difficult sleeping, and trying reishi just really, really helped in terms of falling asleep and staying asleep and quality of sleep, feeling
So great.
refreshed in the morning. The other functional mushroom is lion's mane. There was a pilot study where they looked at the fruiting body extract of lion's mane, and they found that it improved sleep quality as well as subjective well-being in these participants after 4 weeks. So again, that time period, it is going to
Mhm.
take time. So as well, by calming that anxiety and helping that mood piece, it can help people fall asleep and stay asleep. So for me, I often will recommend reishi at night alongside a calming routine. Like, have some sort of practice where
Right.
your body knows that, oh, this is my wind down routine. And sometimes that's paired with magnesium for synergistic support. I use magnesium bisglycinate every single night to support
Mhm.
my sleep. It really helps me. It works wonders. So finding that particular routine for you can work wonders.
Yeah, magnesium and reishi. When you mentioned it to me and I started pairing them up, oh, what a beautiful combo. So easy to do, and it really, like I said, we wear the Aura ring. You can see. I can see the difference in my HRV. I can see the difference in my sleep score when I do and when I don't if I forget to take it. So yeah, sleep. Oh, please get your sleep. If it's one thing you're going to work on from this list, whether you're a student or a parent or a teacher, let it be sleep that comes first. When you get that down, start working on the other things. And I think we can't ignore that it's because of how it allows the brain to do what it needs to do. So we come right back to the top of the list with the treating your brain well with focus and memory and learning. The sleep is so heavily connected to that. And that's why we have a whole episode about it. So if you are interested in improving your sleep, go back and find the episode on sleep, and we do a whole breakdown of a protocol, all the tips we could gather up and things that we do ourselves or we have family members using to support great sleep. So go have a listen to that one. All right. So I think we have really illustrated the back to school isn't just for kids, right? It's this reset for families and for teachers and for students. And I actually went and asked a few of my teacher friends, we're going to record this episode. I told them, Dr. Des and I are going to do a back to school episode because we think it's so important and affecting so many people right now. And to give them a voice and to ask them, what do you wish people knew about teachers? Because I know I often felt like teachers didn't really have this voice in the community that we should. And oh my gosh, were they happy to share what they wished people knew about teachers. So here's what they shared with me. Teachers really wish that people knew that their work didn't end with the school bell, that their evenings and their weekends are often spent planning and marking and buying supplies out of their own pockets. So many of my friends spend hundreds and hundreds of dollars to set up their own classrooms because what's provided by the school district is very basic, but they really want to create an environment because they love what they do and they love the kids that they teach. So they don't just teach a subject. They really carry the emotional weight of dozens of young lives, and they act as a mentor, as a cheerleader. And for many of my friends, sometimes they are the most stable adult in a child's world. And I think we can't ignore that they're taking that on. When it
Mhm.
comes to burnout, I think teachers want you to know that burnout doesn't mean that they've stopped caring. It means that they have cared so deeply for so long without enough support. And
Mhm.
that's where it comes from. And I know that was me. What they need most is partnership with parents. When families and teachers work together, when respect is modeled at home, and when communication is open, it changes everything for a child. So, parents, that's something you can do easily by talking respectfully about the teacher at dinner or in conversations instead of, being quick to point out any faults that you might see early on. Your child will think of that experience being with them so differently. And maybe most of all, teachers want you to remember that they are professionals. Right? They are trained and skilled and creative in ways that go so far beyond babysitting, which is often how they feel
Mhm.
like they are looked at, right? They are shaping, it's not just test scores, but curiosity and resilience and kindness. The things that I think are going to matter long after graduation are really near and dear to the hearts of the teachers that I know. And sometimes all it takes to keep a teacher going is the simplest thing, a heartfelt thank you for what they're doing out there. So if you have a teacher in your life, just think about those things as you greet them the next time you see them.
Mhm. Wow, that's beautiful. I love the little nuggets of wisdom that you shared from your teacher friends. I think it's so important for people to keep that in mind and have some perspective. And from a naturopathic perspective or from another health perspective, the basics really are golden. Nutrition, sleep, movement, stress reduction, they're always first. They are foundational. We can't just overlook the foundations of health. And
Yeah.
sometimes the biggest things for our health are the simplest things. It's not complicated, and we can start there. And functional mushrooms really can layer in this support for focus, bringing calm, supporting immunity,
Mhm.
stamina, and sleep. And I think that's why you and I are so passionate about this, is because functional mushrooms don't replace those things. And we're
Right.
not ever saying that functional mushrooms are the end all be all or the thing. There's no pill for an ill, but they really bring us back to ourselves, and they can help to reinforce healthy habits where we can feel connected and fully embodied in the person that we're meant to be.
Yeah, so well said. This is the season of healthy habits, right? We're all getting back in routine and trying to get our habits back on board. And I think making mushrooms part of those new habits is just, you're going to benefit. You are going to benefit in one of those ways. So
Mhm.
thank you for sharing that. I always so appreciate your expertise. And all of you out there, if this episode resonated with you, please share it and share it with a parent, share it with a student, share it with a teacher who just needs a little extra support this season.
And check out our past episodes on brain health and immune wellness for more evidence based tips.
Until next time, fuel your body, calm your mind, and remember this season is an opportunity for growth for the whole family. We'll see you next time.